Today on the MMA Breakdown Show, we're talking current events in MMA. We've got one of MMA's most infamous promotions coming back in the news. UFC announced a boatload of upcoming fights, and later we're going to be looking at TRT and MMA, as well as breaking down this Nate Marquardt situation. But first, we're going to talk about Alistair Overeem. All right, joining us today on the MMA Breakdown Show, we've got my buddy James Turner and the usual guest host, Donovan Gazaway. All right, so this Alistair Overeem thing came out kind of abruptly. He did an interview for the MMA Hour and informed them that Zuffa, some people at Zuffa, he didn't say who, had been kind of making comments about if he didn't accept the September date for his next fight against Antonio Silva in the Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix, that they may cut him from the tournament. And he was saying how he was upset about that. He felt disrespected and all this stuff. He said that he had he's got a toe injury, broke his toe, suffered some other injuries, I guess, in the fight with Verdum and maybe in training. He didn't want to be specific, which is kind of understandable. He doesn't want to give away like any weaknesses or anything. But he said he'd be ready by October, which is only a month away from when they wanted the fight anyway. And he also mentioned that him and Scott Coker had an agreement that was the tentative date for the fight to happen. Right after this interview, it was announced that Daniel Cormier was going to be his replacement. And then shortly after that, about a day later, Dana White in the press conference for UFC 135 was asked about it and wanted to just be really brief, but said that Showtime offered them only one date, and that date was September 10th. Overeem was injured and he couldn't take the fight, but Overeem is still under contract, and he was adamant about all those things. First thing I want to ask is, why would Showtime only offer them one date for the fight? In the past, they've offered them several dates. They give them a couple different dates to choose from, usually based around boxing events or other things that they have going on Showtime. But why would they only give them one date for something that's guaranteed it's going to be a ratings blockbuster?
Is their contract starting to approach its due date to expire?
With Showtime and Strikeforce?
Mm-hmm.
It's reported that it's 2014.
2014.
So
okay,
no.
So not anytime soon.
No. So what I'm kind of getting at is that signs that the relationship could be maybe dwindled or hurt a little bit by the fact that Zuffa bought out Strikeforce.
Definitely strained, but like you said, if they're doing that, they only stand to lose money at this point. They got to have their bigger draws pull people in. Why would you not take the opportunity and make sure that Overeem could step up and do it in whatever time frame that you can give him? Because I could understand if maybe it was going to run out by the end of this year and they couldn't reschedule the fight. They're trying to get as much promoting for the fights they have left in while they still have a chance. But if it's a 2014 deadline, then I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah.
My thing is, I think that they should definitely be trying to please the fans right now and whatnot, because Strikeforce really doesn't have a lot of big draws, especially in the heavyweight tournament after Fedor lost. Probably their biggest thing coming up that they have is the Fedor and Henderson fight, and I would say Henderson draws a bigger numbers than Fedor does.
Yeah.
And Overeem does have name, and people do want to see him, and now him not being in the tournament is going to lower the quality of the tournament, not necessarily the fighter and not necessarily the fights, but the overall excitement for the tournament and see who wins is going to be not as exciting as if it were to have Fedor or Overeem.
Do you think that maybe the quality of the tournament, maybe the weight that it held as far as being high-ranked heavyweights, do you think that got hit a little bit? Maybe the tournament winner isn't going to be looked at as the number one heavyweight in the world anymore.
I think the quality for the entire Grand Prix wasn't there to begin with, to be honest, because people have documented it that they had the big four on one side. They had Silva, they had Bigfoot, they had Fedor. Who are the other two big ones that were up there? It was Overeem and
Verdum. Yeah.
Verdum, that's right. They were all paired up one side going against each other, so that first elimination would have knocked out the bigger prospects to begin with. The very two biggest names, arguably, are already gone.
Yeah.
So, people probably aren't going to have as much interest, at least over here.
Yeah.
in the Grand Prix now going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, and I don't know what Strikeforce numbers are overseas, but
I don't think they're honestly too big because they're
can't
not
be
even
that
that
big.
well known around here.
yeah, and they're only on Showtime.
Yeah.
I don't know of any
They're
overseas
just hanging on
deal.
by a thread now as it is.
Because right now, really, the only drawing power they had, like I said, was their biggest one being Hendo, and then they lost Shields. They're losing Diaz. Melendez, I guarantee, is going to go over sometime shortly.
Yeah,
And then, really,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, most of their bigger drawing people are going to cross over, if not everybody.
all of these
Okay.
guys want to fight in the UFC now. The only one I can think of off the top of my head that's hanging on is, maybe Henderson, the only big name. And that's because he likes being over with the easy competition, I think.
yeah.
He can
You
hold
think
his
so?
belt. I honestly
think it's his
that
payday.
Because, it's
Yeah,
his
he's
payday.
still
It's
making
the
money.
fact that he's in the twilight of his career.
800,000.
Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't he take that kind of money? He can make
Yeah.
those demands over there, or he could before Zuffa bought Strikeforce.
Yeah, when
So
that contract's
when he comes
up.
over, he ain't getting that kind of money.
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
It's not happening.
Yeah. That's probably why he's fighting to kind of stay there. Do you think maybe for the tournament winner, though, it might be more fitting now that Overeem's out and probably will face the winner of the tournament? Do you think that might actually make the tournament make a little more sense as far as rankings and the flow of Strikeforce goes?
Go ahead.
For Strikeforce, maybe, but weren't they thinking of having the winner of that tournament face off against the UFC heavyweight champion at the end of the day?
It was going to be, that fans speculated, but basically it was going to be the tournament winner would face the
I thought it
heavyweight
was in
champion.
talks to happen, possibly. It wasn't announced officially, but
No,
a lot of people were clamoring to have that happen.
The thing that they said would happen was the tournament winner would face the heavyweight champion, but the heavyweight champion was in the tournament with his belt not on the line. So it kind of didn't really make sense. Like, what if Overeem wins?
Yeah.
Then who gets the title shot? And why would any of those guys deserve it? Because they all lost in the tournament. So it kind of was weird as far as the flow.
It was built around the champion retaining the belt.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. Or setting up a Fedor Overeem fight,
Yeah.
which they lost first round. So, but
As a
How
fan,
about-
that's what I would like to see, honestly.
how about for Bigfoot? You think it's a better fight
I think he's
having
gonna,
Daniel Cormier?
I think he's going to kill him just strictly. Cormier might have the wrestling, but he's a small heavyweight, like at least size-wise. He might still be able to maintain, like, going in there with people and whatnot, but if you look at Bigfoot, he's 7 feet tall and
Almost
has
7 feet.
Yeah, almost 7 feet tall and has the frame of a giant.
One of
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar's arms.
Yeah, he's a big guy. But, Daniel Cormier is bringing in Olympic level wrestling. And, his striking isn't that great. And he is a lot smaller. But is he small enough to be handled? If he's on top of Bigfoot, could Bigfoot handle a powerful wrestler
To me,
like that?
that's like a 30-pound weight advantage for Bigfoot, maybe 30,
Possibly.
20.
Wow.
Bigfoot
5.
maxes. He hits 260, 265.
And Cormier maybe 240.
Cormier's around, 240.
And-
And he's kind of chubby.
Yeah. And I just see Bigfoot winning that definitely in the striking, and hell, he may even submit him.
He may be. Cormier's last fight against Jeff Monson, that's huge step in competition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Especially if Monson, who's saying that his next fight's going to be at 205, whether he won or lost that fight.
Mm-hmm.
All right, a couple quick questions here. Who does it hurt more, Showtime or Zuffa, that Overeem's out?
Showtime.
Definitely Showtime.
How?
Because they're not going to draw in as much ratings. Zuffa owns everything, so it really doesn't affect them as much. But Showtime strictly has Strikeforce, and with Overeem not in, they're not going to get the ratings.
How do
I
you think?
echo everything he just said. They're not going to pull as many people. The UFC was already bigger than Strikeforce before they bought them out, so they can still bank on that.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about just Strikeforce.
You think Overeem will fight in October? He said in that interview that it doesn't matter if it's Strikeforce or elsewhere. He's going to fight in October. He's getting that fight. So you think he will? You think he'll go somewhere else? Or you think Strikeforce will accommodate him?
Well, where would he fight? Like in
He
who?
He can go. In his contract, he can go fight anywhere, any other promotion.
Unless to me, he could go fight, but if it's going to be noticed, the only one he's going to go fight it would be the UFC, and I don't see that happening.
Oh no, this would be like maybe overseas promotion or K1.
Maybe.
But But like I'm saying, they'll have to accommodate him. There's nothing on the horizon for that. All right.